I guess you have everything, huh? I snapped, slamming the plastic bag of dollar store gifts onto the kitchen counter. My sister, Candace, didn't even flinch. She just looked up from her glass of imported wine and gave me that same smirk she wore since the day she got Dad's credit card in high school. "Oh honey," she said, flicking her flawless acrylic nails against the rim of her glass, "it's not our fault you chose to be poor." Chosen? Poor? Before I could respond, Uncle Henry chimed in from the dining table. "Don't start, Sam. It's Christmas. If you can't afford gifts, maybe you shouldn't show up with cheap junk trying to make us feel guilty." Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from. Thanks. That did it. I looked around the room, my entire family dressed in designer outfits, their arms full of Apple bags, luxury perfumes, and limited edition nonsense. Meanwhile, I stood there in my $20 coat from a secondhand store, clutching a grocery bag of handmade candles and baked cookies. And they had the nerve to laugh. To mock me. Candace strutted over like she was walking a runway and plucked one of my candles out of the bag. "Vanilla bean? Ah. You made this?" "That's so, kindergarten." She tossed it back like it was trash. "Next year, just skip the gifts altogether. We don't need your charity." "You think I wanted to make these?" I shouted, my voice cracking, loud enough to silence the room for a second. "You think I don't want to give my niece a Nintendo Switch? Or buy Mom those earrings she's always eyeing? You think I like showing up like this, being treated like a stray dog begging for scraps?" My mother looked away, embarrassed, but not by them. "By me." That's when Candace tilted her head and said with a smile so cold it could freeze glass, "Maybe you should have thought of that before you dropped out of law school. Dad would be ashamed." And just like that, she went too far. I felt my blood rush to my head. "Don't bring Dad into this." "Why not?" she challenged, stepping forward. "He gave you everything, scholarships, a car, even a spot at his firm. And what did you do? Walked away. No wonder you ended up delivering groceries for a living." A hush fell over the room. They all looked at me the same way they always had, like I was a disappointment, a failure, a broken branch on the otherwise perfect family tree. "I left because I couldn't breathe in that house anymore," I said, voice lower now, trembling. "Because the only time Dad ever looked at me was when I beat someone at chess or brought home a medal. Because nothing I ever did was enough. You all called it opportunity. I called it survival." Candace rolled her eyes. "You're always the victim." "No," I said, leaning in, my heart pounding like war drums, "I'm just the only one in this room who remembers the truth." It got quiet again. So quiet, you could hear the soft hum of the Christmas lights in the background. And then, like some invisible director called action, my cousin Jason, the golden boy banker, decided to jump in. "Maybe if you spent less time playing victim and more time building your life, you wouldn't be crying over dollar store wrapping paper. That's not Dad's fault. That's on you." That broke something in me. I stood up from the couch, fists clenched, jaw tight. "You think you're all so much better than me? That your success means you're good people? You step over homeless folks on your way to brunch and laugh at your own brother for bringing handmade gifts on Christmas, and somehow I'm the loser?" Candace laughed again, but this time it wasn't light, it was cruel. "You brought this on yourself, Sam. You quit. You gave up. No one here owes you anything." I looked at each one of them. My mother, silent. My cousins, snickering. My aunt pretending to check her phone like she didn't hear. The same people I grew up with. Shared holidays with. Cried in front of. And here they were mocking the one member of the family who'd fallen behind. As if I was some moral lesson. Some failed example of what not to become. So I grabbed my coat. "You know what?" I said quietly, as I turned toward the door. "You're right. You don't owe me anything." I opened the door. Cold air hit my face. My eyes burned. But you might want to remember this moment, I added, glancing back. Because next week, everything changes. Jason laughed. What, you win the lottery or something? I didn't respond. I just shut the door behind me. But deep down, I knew something they didn't. Dad's lawyer had called me 3 days earlier. Said he needed to see me in person, alone. Said there was something in the will that didn't match the rest of the paperwork. Said Dad made a change. Just weeks before he passed. And for some reason, that change included me. They thought I walked away from the family. They didn't realize I was about to walk back in. And when I did, they'd never look at me the same again. Let them laugh now. Because soon, they'd be the ones begging. And I'd be the one holding the pen. I didn't even wait for the bus. I walked. 5 miles in freezing air, boots soaked through, breath coming out in clouds. I needed the cold. I needed to feel something besides shame. The sound of their laughter still echoed in my ears, louder than the traffic, louder than the crunch of gravel under my shoes. They thought I was bitter. That I was broke. But they didn't know what I was carrying in my pocket, a message from Mr. Harland, Dad's lawyer for over 20 years. Sam, he had said, voice lower than usual, your father made a final amendment to the will. I think you should come in alone. Alone. That word sat with me all night. Just like I'd been all my life, when Dad missed every school play, when my scholarship came without a single congratulation, when I dropped out and no one even called. They all thought I left law school because I couldn't handle it. But the truth? I couldn't handle him. I couldn't keep trying to earn love like it was something I had to audition for. When I finally reached Harlan's office the next day, I was half frozen and full of questions. The receptionist looked up from her screen, eyes widening. Sam? Mr. Harlan's expecting you. He said to send you in right away. His office hadn't changed since I was 15, the same oak desk, the same smell of leather and old files. Except this time, there was a large envelope already waiting on the table, sealed in red wax. My name was handwritten on the front. Sit, Harlan said, gesturing gently. He looked older than I remembered, tired, like he'd been carrying secrets for too long. Why call me in private? I asked. I thought I was written out of everything. Harlan nodded slowly. So did your family. He slid the envelope toward me. But 3 weeks before your father passed, he came in here. Said he'd had a change of heart. Said he'd been wrong about you. I froze. Wrong about me? Harlan leaned forward. He said, you had integrity. That you didn't chase money. That you didn't need his approval, which made you stronger than he'd ever been. He told me you reminded him of the man he used to be, before the money. Before the power. I didn't know what to say. I'd spent years thinking Dad didn't even see me. That I was invisible. To hear that after all this time, it hit me like a freight train. Harlan broke the silence. He left you something. Something big. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside, there was a letter. And a document with the bold title. Amendment to Last Will and Testament of Gregory Allen Whitmore. Date, 3 weeks before death. I scanned the lines, heart pounding harder with every word. I, Gregory Whitmore, hereby designate my son, Samuel Whitmore, as the sole executor of my estate and controlling shareholder of Whitmore Investments, effective immediately upon my passing. My breath caught. I looked up at Harlan. Is this real? He nodded. He left your cousins and your sister their trust funds. But the business? The list. Trusts. Apologies. Some stock options. A vacation home. Nothing life-changing. Nothing controlling. And then, he paused. I felt the room inhale. And finally, to my son, Samuel Whitmore. All heads turned. Eyes narrowed. I leave controlling interest of Whitmore Investments, full ownership of the Whitmore estate property, and the authority to act as primary executor and representative of all company operations, assets, and legacy decisions effective immediately. Dead silence. Candace looked like someone had slapped her. Derek muttered, "That's not possible." Brenda stood up. "There must be a mistake." Greg disowned him. He said he wanted nothing to do with that boy. Harlan simply raised a paper. Signed, witnessed, notarized. 3 weeks before his death. Candace shot up. He manipulated him. That's what happened. Dad was old. Confused. Your father was lucid, Harlan said, calmly but firmly. He said Sam was the only one who didn't ask for money. The only one who didn't pretend to love him for access. His exact words were, "He has nothing, but he never begged." That's the kind of man I want to carry my name. I looked up, slowly. And for the first time in years, I saw them scared. Not angry. Not mocking. Scared. Because they knew what came next. Candace whispered, This isn't over." I stood, looking each of them in the eye. "Oh, it's just beginning." The next morning, I walked into the Whitmore building not as a visitor, not as a forgotten son, but as the owner. The air felt different, heavier. People I didn't know greeted me with tight smiles, not out of kindness, but fear. Word had spread faster than wildfire. Greg Whitmore's disgraced son was now their new boss. Every step I took echoed like a drumbeat of justice. I took the executive elevator. The same one Candace used to take selfies in, flashing her platinum badge, bragging that not everyone is born royalty. She wasn't at the top when the doors opened. But Derek was. And he looked like a man on the edge of a nervous breakdown. "You can't do this," he snapped, following me into the boardroom. "You don't know how this place runs. You've never even worked here." I dropped my folder on the table. Exactly. I've never worked here. I've earned it. Earned it? His voice cracked. You were cut off. You were out of the picture. You were. Honest, I cut in. I was honest about who I was. I didn't beg. I didn't fake love. And I never thought being born with a last name made me better than anyone else. He laughed, bitter and broken. "You're going to ruin this company." "No," I said, meeting his eyes. "I'm going to fix what all of you broke." The rest of the board filtered in, all suits and frowns. Brenda showed up 20 minutes late, holding a coffee cup like she still had authority. "I called this meeting," I said, once the room had settled, "to announce a few immediate changes." Candace, now somehow in the front row, crossed her legs. "You can't just come in here and act like the king. This isn't a fairy tale." "No," I said calmly. "It's not. In fairy tales, the villains fall off cliffs or turn into frogs. In real life, they get demoted." Gasps. Candace stood up so fast her chair scraped. "Excuse me?" "Effective immediately, your access to corporate accounts is frozen. No more private jets on the company dime. No more fashion shows under the business card." Brenda narrowed her eyes. "You little rat. Greg built this company for us." "No," I said. "He built it for his legacy. And clearly, you were never part of it." Then I turned to Derek. "And you, let's talk about that $30,000 consulting fee you slipped into last month's expenses. You want to run this company? Learn how to earn your paycheck without stealing first." He turned red. "That wasn't stealing, it was compensation." "Cool. Then compensate yourself for being unemployed. You're fired." The silence in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. A few board members blinked. One nodded slightly, impressed. Most of them looked like they were waiting for a thunderclap. "You can't do this," Brenda hissed again. "Yes, I can," I said. "Because I'm not the kid who walked out of this family poor, I'm the man who walked back with the power." I ended the meeting. walked out before they could recover. My name was on every legal document that mattered. They could scream. They could cry. They could scheme. But they couldn't stop me. And when I got in my car, hands still trembling, phone buzzing with angry texts from Candace and her lawyer, I smiled. Not because I wanted revenge, but because, for the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible anymore. I should have known they wouldn't take it lying down. The moment I left that boardroom, the snakes started slithering. Brenda called an emergency family dinner that night, not to talk, not to heal, but to ambush me. Candace was there in a tight red dress like she was headed to court and wanted to seduce the judge. Derek sat with his arms crossed, still nursing the bruise to his ego. Brenda wore pearls like armor, chin raised like she was royalty. I walked in, and no one even said hello. Just eyes. Cold. Calculating. Waiting. You made a fool of us today, Brenda started, without so much as a greeting. In front of the board. In front of the staff. You think that's leadership? No, I said calmly, pulling out a chair. I think that's long overdue accountability. You embarrassed me, Candace snapped. You humiliated me. I exposed you, I corrected. That's different. Embarrassment comes when truth walks in the room and someone can't handle their reflection. Derek slammed his glass down. You walk around acting high and mighty now, but let's not forget you're nothing without that will. Without Dad, you'd still be scraping coins. I leaned forward. And yet here you are, afraid of me. Imagine that. Brenda rolled her eyes. Well, since we're airing things out, maybe it's time the public knew your story. The dropout. The so-called failure. The lost son of Greg Whitmore. Candace grinned. We've spoken to a few outlets. One little scandal and let's see how long you last. I didn't flinch. You already tried that, didn't you? That anonymous tip about me being in rehab? Or was it the fake credit fraud report? Cute. Candace blinked. So did Derek. I smiled. You forget who trained me, I said. Dad may have left me out of the spotlight, but he didn't leave me unarmed. Every attack you planned, I already have on file. Your emails. Your calls. Brenda's signature on the bribe for that reporter? Brenda's hand twitched. I own this family now, I continued. Not because I wanted to, but because he knew you'd ruin it without me. Silence. You don't deserve the company, Derek muttered, voice lower now. You never sacrificed like we did. I stood slowly. You're right. I didn't sacrifice my morals. I didn't sacrifice loyalty. I didn't fake love to stay in the will. But I did sacrifice something. They watched me. I sacrificed 10 years of being ignored, insulted, treated like dirt by my own blood. And I stayed quiet. But not anymore. Brenda stood up. So what now? You banish us all? No, I said. I let you choose your exile. I pulled a folder from my coat pocket and slid it across the table. 3 envelopes. Sealed. One for each of you. Inside are offers. You can walk away now. Peacefully. Paid out. You'll still live comfortably. No lawsuits. No headlines. Candace reached for hers, but I stopped her. But if any of you leak one more lie about me, contact another journalist, or threaten another staff member, I will bury you. With everything I've got. Financially. Legally. Publicly. Brenda's face turned ghost white. Derek stared down at the folder like it might explode. Candace stayed still, lips pressed so tight they disappeared. You have 48 hours, I said, already turning to leave. As I opened the door, I paused. You laughed when I couldn't afford gifts. You looked down on me when I worked double shifts. But guess what? I turned, just once, to meet their eyes. Now I can afford to buy back every ounce of dignity you tried to take from me. And I'm not handing it out like presents, you'll have to earn your way back into my life. The lawyer called me in alone. No Brenda. No Derek. No Candace. Just me in a thick manila folder with my name printed across the front like it was waiting for this moment. He didn't smile. He didn't offer condolences. Just opened the folder and slid a letter across the table, already unsealed. This, he said, your father wrote by hand the night before he passed. I swallowed hard. My throat tightened. For a man who never said much, his silence in that envelope felt deafening. But I opened it anyway, because maybe, just maybe, I needed to hear his voice one last time. Son, it began. If you're reading this, it means you didn't run. I froze. My chest thudded. It means you didn't take the bait. That when they turned their backs, you stayed upright. I watched them laugh at you. I watched them push you out. And I waited to see if you'd break like they hoped. But you didn't. I didn't realize I was crying until I saw the drops hit the page. Do you know why I left the company to you? Because you were never trying to prove anything. You were just trying to live right. That's the kind of man who should lead. I had to stop reading for a moment. My whole body was trembling. All those nights I thought he'd forgotten me. All those birthdays he missed. I thought he didn't care. He cared. He just couldn't show it, not with them watching. The lawyer handed me another envelope. This part wasn't included in the first will. Your father added it in his final amendment. No one else knows about it yet. Inside was a deed. Not just to the company, but to the house. The estate. The investments. A fund. For me. And attached to it was a letter titled for when they come back. It read, you may think they'll stay gone, but they won't. Entitlement doesn't walk away quietly. They'll come to you crying. Desperate. Angry. And when they do, give them one chance to be decent. Just one. If they fail that, let them go. Family isn't about blood. It's about who's in the room when it hurts, not just when it shines. I folded the letter slowly. My hands felt different holding it, like I was carrying weight I didn't realize I was meant to hold. For the first time in my life, I felt seen. And that's when the door opened. Brenda. Derek. Candace. All three. Brenda's makeup was smudged. Derek looked tired. Candace, she wasn't wearing red tonight. She looked smaller somehow. Human. Sam, Brenda said softly. We saw the final filing. The deed. The letter. The extra amendment. So they knew. The money. The property. The company. All of it. They looked at me now not like I was a burden, but a throne they couldn't touch. We're sorry, Candace said, voice cracking. Truly. For everything. I waited. Derek stepped forward. You don't owe us anything. But we're here to say we understand why Dad chose you. We see it now. We didn't then. But we do now. I raised an eyebrow. Do you? Brenda sighed. Look. Maybe we came here with the wrong intentions. At first. But this, she motioned to the letter, it changes things. We were wrong. There it was. The chance. The test. My father's words echoed. Give them one chance to be decent. Just one. I looked each of them in the eyes. Then prove it. Not with words. Actions. They nodded. Quietly. Humbly. So I stood. I won't banish you, I said. But things won't go back to how they were. You'll have to work, actually work, for this company now. No more titles without jobs. No more benefits without effort. No more faking love at family dinners and stabbing each other the next day. Derek looked ashamed. Candace nodded, tears in her eyes. Brenda didn't speak, but for once, she didn't argue either. I'll let you rebuild, I continued. But on my terms. Earn your way back, the way I had to earn my place at this table. There was silence. And for the first time, it wasn't hostile. It was hopeful. They walked out slowly. I sat back down. Looked at the letter again. My father's signature at the bottom. That looping G he always wrote like it was music. And I smiled. Because they laughed when I said I couldn't afford gifts that year. They mocked my clothes. My car. My silence. But the truth? I was the gift. I just took a little longer to unwrap.